Hello, 5th grade teachers and homeschoolers. This is Ben Edwards, a private tour guide in Boston since 2004, whose ancestors called Boston home, before, during, and after the American Revolution. What follows is a brief preview of my virtual field trip of Boston's Freedom Trail. It will give you a feel for the quality of the content in the full 40-minute presentation. Next stop, 1775. Here you'll see some of the key buildings in colonial Boston. Focusing on the North End, you can spot the Revere House, Christ Church, that's the Old North Church, and I included the home of my Edwards ancestors. Let's go to the street level in 1775. This is Back Street, now Salem Street in the North End, standing next to the Edwards family property. And here's my children's book, One April in Boston. Each of you will be getting it for free as an ebook and audiobook just for watching this presentation. One April in Boston is illustrated in pen and ink by Cortney Skinner. The boy on the front cover is Ben Edwards, my 4th great-grandfather. In April 1775, he was 10 and lived right down the street from the Old North Church. Ben carries a spyglass and believes he can glimpse the future through its lens. Toward the end of the American Revolution, Ben's older sister, Sally Edwards, married Paul Revere Jr., firstborn son of patriot Paul Revere. So there's kind of a fun connection between my ancestors and Paul Revere. Finally, I thought you'd get a good laugh at a photo of me in 5th grade. Also, a book I wrote at that age about Boston history and some of my illustrations. Look at those awesome stick figure people throwing chests of tea into the sea during the Boston Tea Party. You can definitely tell I was not an artist, and certainly no Cortney Skinner. You'll see his original illustrations and paintings throughout this presentation. Today's virtual field trip begins on Boston Common at the Visitor Center. In 1634, the inhabitants of the town of Boston purchased the estate of William Blackstone and set aside his pasture as a training field for the militia and a spot for feeding cattle. On the far left, you'll see cows grazing. That ended in 1830. Today, this common land remains open space for all to enjoy. You'll see people relaxing on the grass, and that building in the background is the Massachusetts State House. Let's travel back in time to get a glimpse of Boston Common in the year 1829. The mansion to the left of the Massachusetts State House is the home of John Hancock. Let's take a closer look. Built in 1737, it was sadly torn down in 1863. The plaque you see on the right marks the location where this impressive home once stood. We're back to the present day, and here you are on the Common walking the Freedom Trail. You've accepted my challenge of trying to stay on the bricks until we reach the State House. Here is a list of Freedom Trail sites that the presentation covers. Next, you'll see some of Cortney Skinner's artwork, produced for sections on the Boston Tea Party and the Midnight Ride.
The large whole chests weighed 400 pounds each, and the quarter-sized chests about 100 pounds each. The men swung their hatchets, broke open the wooden chests, and dumped the shattered chests and loose tea into the sea. It was low tide, and the water in the harbor was only about 2 feet in depth. As a result, all 3 ships had settled in the mud. The tons of tea accumulated up to the rails of the vessels, and it had to be swept away and finally pushed out into the water by men and boys in boats. The moon was unusually low on the horizon as the 3 men crossed the Charles, allowing them to hide in the shadows and avoid detection by crew members aboard the British warship HMS Somerset. After landing in Charlestown, Revere met with patriots and learned that his warning signal was seen. He soon borrowed a horse from John Larkin and set off for Lexington. The time was about 11 o'clock. Early in his ride, Paul Revere spotted 2 British officers on horseback under a tree by the road. One gave chase, but Revere's horse proved faster, enabling his escape after the officer's mount became stuck in a clay pond.